Hi, this is Ebert, and welcome to another edition of CheckIntell. We're just back from Washington, D.C. after attending the August Crop Production Report at USDA headquarters in Washington, D.C. What a surprise. We're going to talk about two aspects of the report today that were important to our farmers that went from the Indiana Soybean Alliance and the Indiana Corn Marketing Council, which are your two checkoff organizations for corn and soybeans here in your state.
I'm Luke Schnitker with the Indiana Corn Marketing Council, and we're here in Washington, D.C. today for the USDA Crop Report. Today, whenever we went to the USDA building, we gave a short briefing on how the report would be released and kind of some background on the history of the report and how long that they have been doing this for and how they collect the information on the report. So we went through the lockup briefing, took about an hour to give the full report to the secretary, and then we were out of there. I think everyone was a little surprised by some of the numbers that were given today, but we'll just have to see how that plays out in the coming days this week.
Corn was the highlight of the report today in terms of emphasis by the market and by the reaction after the report. I've done these crop reports for about 20 years. I've been up there inside of lockup probably 10 to 12 times. Again, not really sure. It's been a few nights since my first one. But the bottom line is this was probably the biggest surprise I've experienced while at one of those reports. The numbers were surprising. When you looked at it on a national level, the increase in yield from the July report from 166 to 169.5 was significant on a couple different levels. Number one, the increase in yield this late in the production cycle is significant. Number two, the reduction in acreage, down about 1.7 million acres from the July report, was more than offset by this increase in yield on a national basis. It was surprising to the market for a couple different reasons. The biggest was when you looked at market estimates prior to the release of this report. The NASS data came in much higher than any of the estimates for both acreage planted and also in terms of production. So it was certainly an outlier. The Indiana data that we saw released in the report today doesn't square with what we've heard from both our farmer directors, other farmers within the state, and other agribusinesses here in Indiana. So that again was part of the surprising nature of this report. I think the market was focused almost singularly on corn in terms of what direction both the acreage and total production were going to be, and so that's why you saw corn down sharply today, down 25 cents on the close, and soybeans down only 12.5 cents. We'll talk briefly about soybeans. Really, when you look at the reduction in acreage today from the July estimate, in a normal market condition, that would really have stimulated a rally in soybeans. But again, this report was all about corn, and certainly the Indiana numbers, when we look at those, actually being up 100,000 acres of additional plantings from the previous report, that's within the wheelhouse of being possible. But certainly when you look at the national level, a reduction of the amount of acres from July to August would have normally caused a significant reaction.
One of the things that I was most impressed with today and I find commendable is that the NASS group works independent of political party, and the information gets brought to farmers without any bias towards that. And the secretary, or in today's case, the deputy secretary, signs the report even before he fully reads and is briefed on the report.
The unique thing that this August crop production report is it kind of sets a bar or a baseline for the rest of the estimates as we go through the cycle, barring some new information or some type of weather-related event that occurs prior to the maturity of this crop and harvest. And this is why checkoff programs are so important to the Indiana farmer for both corn and soybeans. Because looking at grain marketing, new uses, new export opportunities, feeding of livestock, the quality of our environment with production and environment work and research, all lending itself and building itself up to greater demand for both Indiana and U.S. products. Thank you again for joining us for this edition of CheckIntell.